Hello and welcome to this episode 12 of the Excaliburr podcast, hosted and co-hosted by me as well as Connor Creature over there.
Hello, hello.
How are you guys doing today? How are you doing today?
Doing well, man. It was a late night last night with work, traveling, as I do most every weekend with the company. Getting back into town late, so I'm doing well, though. I'm doing very well.
Awesome. Yeah, I think in our breath work that we did today, that actually just kind of, we do that as a pre-game ritual or a ritual before every single one of these things. I think it just centers us and makes sure that when we are delivering a message, it's not coming from ego, it's rather coming from being channeled.
The higher self.
Yes.
Yeah. Before any important activity, I always try to do some sort of breath work at a time, breath work and meditation, because it does get myself outside of myself so that I can have something higher than me come through.
Definitely. And prayer, obviously. We tend to pray a lot more than most people.
Yeah. My internal silent prayers are 24/7.
Yeah.
I find that helps me a lot, connecting.
Definitely.
For sure.
I think there's a saying or there's something in the Bible where it says, throw your burdens upon God and he will be able to bear them with you, or share the load with you at least, right?
Yeah. Pain shares, pain lessened.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And that's something greater than yourself to share that with. It's magical in a sense.
Definitely. Well, what I was looking at this week, what's come into my awareness quite often, is that with doing research into different companies and how we need to position ourselves as Excaliburr to be able to deliver the best message to people and to truly make a difference in the world, I have noticed so much of social media is just a cesspool of consistent in your face. Hey, look at me. I've got this. I've got that. This is the car that I drive. I'm driving a Lamborghini. I've got this wristwatch, which is okay, right? It's okay to have that and to be proud of those things. But when you're flaunting it for the sake of seeking validation, there's a very big difference. Like, I know somebody that he actually invests in cars and he rather buys them as an investment for the investment's sake, so that in the next couple of years it's going to appreciate in value and he's going to be able to sell them and make a profit of that. So business-wise, he's looking at it from that perspective. But a lot of these fitness coaches and people out there are rather looking at it as a way to grab people's attention and to build this clout of, this is the lifestyle that I live. To me, that comes across as so inauthentic. It comes across, and you can see it. But a lot of people fall for that for some reason. Yeah.
I am an expert when it comes to that.
Okay.
Especially for the seeking validation outside yourself. For me personally, of course, I explained, like, when I was younger, I was kind of a loner, didn't really get much attention, had a handful of friends, but I was always insecure.
Yeah.
And as I got older and started to actually mature and come of age, I fell into the trap of social media validation. I remember I started to realize hey, I can start modeling, doing the runway shows and doing all this. And I became obsessed with it. In my early 20s, I remember doing photo shoots all the time and posting it and looking for that validation, that dopamine hit from it, and seeking it outside of myself. And with the whole car thing, I remember when I first started stripping, I was making great money for the first time in my life. Within the first month, I went out and bought a BMW, a new BMW. Awful purchase. Awful purchase. I will never buy a BMW again. I say that again, but I was at the car dealership today looking for a new car for my wife. And of course, I was going towards the Mercedes and the BMW. At first, I was I'm about to make this dumb mistake again for that validation outside myself. I was always seeking that. And I remember when I have a really good modeling show, damn, I look good. My six-pack looks great. My muscles look big. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to show this off.
Right.
Run straight to Instagram, post it. As the likes went up and up and up, I started feeling that happy feeling, that dopamine rush, that validation.
Right.
But of course, it was so empty. And it took me many years to stop seeking validation outside of ourselves. I remember with previous podcasts, we actually had discussions on validation outside of yourself. And other factors like women, money, job, and all that.
Yeah.
But social media in particular, I went down a deep rabbit hole where that meant more to me. It's how do you see me? I'm the guy driving the BMW with a six-pack, getting all these photo shoots with these ladies. oh, I felt great. But on the inside, like I felt so empty. I felt so
Right.
broken. And it wasn't until like we started working on ourselves
Yes.
and like trying to find something outside of that.
Mhm.
But you're right. You do see a lot of like the personal trainers on Instagram driving a Lamborghini, doing this, doing that, like as if that has anything to do with like the physical fitness side of what they're doing.
Right.
It is showing a front, and it's a great looking front. You see a dude in a Mercedes, a BMW, a Lamborghini, whatever nice car you can imagine.
Mhm.
The initial thought is you're like, damn, I wish I could be like that.
Yeah,
But you never know. You never know how it truly is.
for sure. And from the framing of that guy could just have rented that out
Yeah.
for that particular video, for that purpose, right?
Yeah.
There's no guarantee that he's actually doing that. But what I do find is that a lot of people associate that with wealth. Whereas from my perspective, I believe that wealth is behind the scenes. Being rich is people like your Tekashi 9, right? He's the guy with the grill in his mouth and all these chains and stuff like that. But how does that actually translate into real life terms versus somebody like the Rockefeller family? You don't even know about them, right? You don't know what their true wealth is. He said, John D. Rockefeller said, own nothing, but control everything. And I think that Andrew Tate has gone that route as well. I don't think that he owns any of his assets. He rather has companies that own all those assets, and that way he's well protected. And I believe that that is the perfect framework for people to go forward. But moving back to the idea of rich versus wealthy, it's a front. And it's very, very inauthentic to me. And I believe that from where my perspective is, I would rather present a message that comes to people and guides them to being authentic to who they are so that they are able to be better than they were before and to bring somebody up with them. Right? That's the whole thing, the whole reason that the company is called the Kingmaker. It's not to make a warrior or to make a high value man, but rather somebody that is the king of his own domain in his own realm, and therefore will be able to guide other men to become leaders as well. And I believe that that is more important than just being a warrior or a high value man. That's why our nickname is, or our synergy that we have is Warrior Kings. Because you look at Leonidas, King Leonidas, he was a warrior, but he also was a king for Sparta. He laid down his life for Sparta so that they could actually win the war versus the Persians. You look at people like Napoleon Bonaparte, Attila the Hun, all of these great warrior kings of history guided their kingdoms towards being some of the best kingdoms in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And to take it back with Excaliburr, start with working on yourself and from within.
Precisely.
And you won't need the social validation. You won't have to be posting pictures on Instagram for that dopamine rush.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be confident in your own skin. And it starts with really simple and easy tasks.
Yes.
Making your bed, working out, watching what you eat, and just building that discipline. Once you have self-discipline, it's so much easier to elevate in every aspect of your life because everything starts with discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing what you need to, not what you want to.
Yeah, it's putting off what you want now for what you truly want.
Exactly.
And I think, like you said, discipline, it starts with discipline, but discipline also instills self-confidence in you.
Yeah.
Because once you're able to stick with a particular task for a certain amount of time, you build up that little level ups inside you. And I'm not sure when the shift truly happens, but that shift does eventually happen. That truly changes your internal dialogue with yourself. Now you're talking to yourself of, no, I'm not the person that doesn't get things done, but rather I'm the type of person that is able to set a task, stick to it, and therefore move further on in life.
Yeah, absolutely. I struggled with the internal dialogue, the negative self-talk for so long. Mm-hmm. And there'll be some days when it does go to bad, when I say goes wrong, because I'll decide I want to sleep in or I want to do this, and I'll start chasing the animal, the monkey mind.
Yes.
and it'll go downhill quick.
Mm-hmm.
But I suffered from the negative inner dialogue for a long time.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like as you start to build yourself up, that change, it's like an invisible change that nobody else can see, but you can feel.
Definitely. One of the guys that I'm actually training, Matt, he went through exactly the same process, right? So we did about 6 weeks where he was on and off and he was not showing up. But my viewpoint was I saw potential in him. So I consistently, showed up. And even though he was breaking our appointments, I knew that if I pushed through that and showed him that I'm the type of person that's going to be there for you, then you know what happened? Now, 3 weeks into the program where he's stuck to it and he's actually made a difference in his diet, man, he's lost about 16 pounds now. And he keeps on talking about his arms, dude. He's like, man, my arms have never felt this good. It feels so good. It's like they're 15.3 inches or whatever it is, right? But I mean, for someone that's never had arms that size, because he had a big belly and no real muscle scape before. He was fit when he was younger. But as he got to 40, he moved over to Canada and then into, where was this place called again? To the USA. The diet changed during COVID. There was a lot of different things that happened. And because of that, he picked up an exorbitant amount of weight. But once he started to see the differences in himself, and then other people started to see that differences as well, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool because that example also goes like to the levels of it, because first you show up for yourself, but then once you develop these tools and these habits, you can help other people show up for themselves.
Exactly.
It's not just you doing it for yourself. Then you get to do it for other people. And that's where real joy comes.
Precisely.
When you share your strength, experience, and hope from your own experiences with other people and see the change in them. Man, that is what fulfillment is getting outside yourself and helping others through that. And once again, we have the brotherhood where we can. We've got all our clients that help us just as much as we help them.
Yeah. Exactly. On top of that, also imagine having a brotherhood of people that are in different avenues. Like you're not only run one company, you're also skilled carpenter, you're doing building and demolition work. You have a whole host of different avenues that you are in. But then we have people that are in finance, people that are in physical training or
digital marketing,
a whole host of different people. And that's how you get to share the wealth with your own social network. Instead of looking outside of your social network, now you get to be like people that are actually wealthy in the world and rather utilize those avenues to enrich each other.
Yeah. The connections is priceless, man.
Yeah.
It is awesome. The amount of great people we have met through this process and through this journey that not only can they help us, but we can also lend aid and hand and experience and strength to them. It's amazing. It's a brotherhood is what it is.
Yeah, for sure, man. I have truly found a lot of value in how I've been able to synergize with a lot of people and find harmony, and the fact that a lot of men are going through some difficult times at the moment, and there's no real outlet for them to say, this is the path forward. But if you take a system that I've developed over and implemented in my life over the last 20 years and through some really difficult times, I was having a discussion with my wife today, is I can't go back to where I was when I just came to the United States, right right after my divorce. She says, like, unfortunately, I have to kind of go there so I can tell people the story of it, but I can't synergize with that person anymore. It's like a snake that's shedded skin. I don't believe that I'm there anymore, and I can't feel those feelings. So I find it very difficult to go back there and to assimilate those feelings. But I can look at it from a logical point of view, because we spoke about the fact that we divorce our emotions from the standpoint of where it was and kind of look at the learnings that we've accumulated from there. But for me to truly be able to tell that story, I somehow have to go to that dark place. And it's not that I'm scared of it, it's just that I don't feel it anymore. So I need to figure out how I'm able to navigate getting to that dark space so that I can tell a story to people that are in that dark space with them, shining a light and a path forward to move out to the new version of themselves.
That's interesting. That's actually something I would personally disagree with you on, just from my own experiences. I can go back and feel what I felt and be in the mind of who I was when I was 22 and going through the worst periods in my life. And that helps me with like the motivation, like knowing I never want to go back there, but I can look back at all sorts of circumstances where I ultimately fucked up and it was my responsibility and I fell short. I did wrong.
Yeah.
And I recall those with crystal clear vision at times, but that has personally helped me a lot. And that just might be what we're on different paths of the growth. Like you were sometimes really up high, really far and transcended and past everything. But it's a helpful experience to look back and journal and write. I know when I was in recovery, I learned about inventorying your life.
Yes.
You have to look at yourself from an objective standpoint, divorced of emotions, and document all the things you've done, all the good things you've done, particularly all the bad things you've done, so you can see it for what it is, not for what you're feeling at the time.
For sure.
To make a substantial change.
Yeah. Well, my point is I can navigate there. I can review it, but I don't know how to get in the feeling. So how do you do that? Explain that to me. What is the process that
They're just so crystal clear from a lot of the experiences, just the sheer pain I felt, the sheer emptiness I felt.
Okay.
Just thinking about it, I can give me chills at times, like recalling how I felt when I didn't have a job, when I didn't have a girlfriend, when I was living at my parents', when I was cutting my own wrists and feeling the emptiest possible. There are points in my life where I can just feel that and recall back to it. I don't think it's anything special, any trick I do. Maybe it's just something that's more imprinted in my mind because it had such a significant impact on my life.
Okay.
That it's easy to look back and recall those times.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's something that I think we need to talk about. I would love to be able to learn some of the submodalities. Submodality is like what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you are smelling. So utilizing all of your senses to truly pull your mind, body, and soul back into that experience without having the emotion attached to it. Because when I try and do that, I don't have the capability to it. So maybe it's something that we can talk about later on in our podcast moving forward.
Yeah, I do think a big part of it was in recovery and the documentation part. Like for many years, for the past 8-9 years of my life, practicing the documentation and journaling. It is journaling. Yeah. It is such a valuable tool to help you process different things. Okay. And that probably was a big part as to how I can go back into those times, because as I was going through them, I was writing about it and trying to articulate it and trying to process it and trying to be less emotional and more objective about that. So maybe it was through the years of practice of doing that I can still recall them so easily. Interesting.
Well, I think that's all that we have time for today, guys. Yeah. I know that we didn't want to leave you on a high note, but that's a cliffhanger for next time. We are going to be probably talking about something just as important or even more important next week. So you can catch us on Excaliburr Coaching on either Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube.
Yep. We're all over the place now. Thank you very much.
Connor, you've been a pleasure as usual.
As always, it's been good talking to you.
Great stuff, man. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.